Okay, well, I'd really love to introduce to everyone someone that everyone probably already knows, Jason Christoff, and he is all over social media, or he was before the census started, kicking up. And I'm so excited to welcome you today. It's a real honour to speak with you. All your wisdom and knowledge and your hard-won experience in your life through everything that you've learned. So I'm going to pick your brains today and find some wonderful things that can benefit people at this time. So, what I'd really love to start with is the fact that, as far as I'm aware, there's a beautiful gateway opening on the 26th of May 2021, which is an opportunity for people to really go to the next level in the ascension process. And so it's really important that we hold a frequency of love in the midst of all the, things that are going on in the world as we know at the minute. It's very intense. And so in order to hold that vibration of love, it's good to have the awareness of the ways that we're perhaps self-sabotaging, both individually and collectively as a planet. So I'd love to ask Jason today some ways that we're sabotaging ourselves at the moment in the midst of everything that's going on around us, and how we can have strategies or solutions to be able to overcome that self-sabotage in the midst of everything that's going on, so we can keep our frequency as high as possible. And we all want to evolve and grow as souls, and so it's such an important time with this 26th of May coming up. So welcome, Jason. It's so wonderful to speak with you today, and can't wait to hear all your wonderful guidance.
Well, thanks, Medina, for having me on, and we'll set the intention that we want to help everybody today sort of understand their own behavior and give solutions. That's what we'll set the attention for today. If I was going to tell anybody about what are the self-sabotaging behaviors, it's probably better to start with the fact that we all self-sabotage. There's nothing really to be embarrassed about, but it's important to know how the behavior is manufactured by our subconscious. So there's a part of our mind that's responsible for the self-sabotage. It's called the subconscious, and it works outside our conscious awareness. Now, this part of the brain is in charge of our survival, our safety, and our security, and it has a process by which it accomplishes these increases in safety and security on our behalf, but it does it outside our conscious awareness. So this process by which it's always trying to keep us safe, it's a very loving part of the brain. So this is something that's good and can make people feel comfortable. It loves us. It wants to protect us. It wants us to be secure. It wants us to find companions. It's always sort of looking out for our best interest. It has some flaws, but the process by which it protects us is it looks out through our eyes and it listens through our ears. And its job, it's very obsessed with repetitive content. So I tell people, if you want to know how this part of the brain works, think of like a pen and a pad of paper. And the subconscious, again, outside our conscious awareness, is very interested in what other people are doing. And it's collecting information and analyzing the information and ranking it. And it's there to sort of analyze and decide what most people are doing, what most people are wearing, what most people are thinking, what most people are doing. Where do most people work? What do most people make? How many kids do most people have? What's the age where most people get married? And it puts it all down on the paper. Now, why it's interested in this information is the word most means majority. Majority means safer or bigger herd. So this part of the brain is always analyzing our environment, looking for what the majority is doing, because it knows through its genetic experience that it brings with it into your body that the easiest way to bond with a group is to be like them, and you're going to find more security and safety or survival in the bigger herd. So this process is always going on at a very ferocious rate. They've even measured how fast the conscious mind can handle information. And the conscious mind is the part of the brain I'm talking with. It's the part of the brain you're listening with, is the conscious mind. And although we sound, or we think we sound, very intelligent when we talk with the conscious mind, it can only handle 140 pieces of info a second. And the subconscious is downloading information and analyzing it at a rate of 11 million bits a second. And that's a reflection of its dedication and its obsession, its love for you, always trying to make sure it does its job. Like, it has one job to sort of make sure that it knows on your behalf what the majority of people are doing. And then it's sort of, with the list that it compiled through its analytics, it forces the list up into your neurological system and you act it out. And this is what sort of shocks people, is that there are functions in the body that the average person will be aware of that they're not in control. You're not in control of your menstrual cycle. You're not in control of your heartbeat. If you're on a date with a potential romantic partner, you can't yell at your armpits and say, "Don't sweat." Like, it's outside your control. Your hair regeneration, your skin regeneration, how fast your nails grow. Like, you can't look at your nails and say, "I don't want you to grow. I don't want to cut you for the next year." Like, it would save some time, but it doesn't work. And so there's large categories that people, if you make them aware, they're like, yeah, that makes sense. There are things that my body does that I'm not in control of. Well, your behavior, if you go to a psychology library or a psychology office at a university, they will tell you that, unbeknownst to you, that your behavior falls in that category as well. And I'll give you sort of a real life example. In 2001, there was a movie called Gone in 60 Seconds. It was with Angelina Jolie and Nicolas Cage, and it was a movie about car theft. And the premise of the movie was that Nicolas Cage had to save someone from a local thug. Nicolas Cage was an old car thief, and the deal was the thug wouldn't beat up, well, it was Nicolas Cage's brother, as long as Nicolas Cage came out of retirement and stole 100 of the best cars in that general area in 24 hours. So there's a lot of repetition and that about car theft in that movie, and that repetition is going to get the pen and the pad inside the subconscious mind. And there's a lot of positive reinforcement as well, where if Nicolas Cage stole all the cars, he would get Angelina Jolie. So there is a survival aspect to that gets the subconscious's attention, because survival is not just about you, it's about your genetic line. So there's a lot of what's called reptilian trickery. There's a part of our brain that really likes safety, security, and sexual procreation. And this is part of the subconscious adaptation. And it's also been proven that this part of the brain that has the pen and the pad, it doesn't know the difference between screen time or real life or imagined thought. So as it's watching the screen of this movie, Gone in 60 Seconds, about car theft, it actually processes the information like it's real, and processes and downloads and analyzes it like you're living in a Gone in 60 Seconds tribe. And obviously it notices that the Gone in 60 Seconds tribe is really obsessed with car theft. And this is a big problem, because when this movie was released in Burnaby, BC, Canada, the police reported that car theft went up 70% in the first 4 days. And if you were to interview, you get someone like inside the movie theater and you have a reporting microphone and you say, do you think watching a movie with repetitive content about car theft could actually modify the behavior of the audience, causing an increase in car theft? And you put the microphone over, most people would say, absolutely not. That doesn't make any sense. But this is how our behavior really works, is that it's based on the repetitive content we see. We act it out as a sort of strike toward blending in and emulating and mimicking the behavior of the tribe. And, this is how our behavior is manufactured. So a self-sabotage occurs through this pathway that is, it's always ongoing. It's a 24-hour a day analytics of your environment. It knows the environment changes, so it's very aware of, if you make some subtle changes, village to village, town to town, trying to see what the villagers are doing here. What do you have to do to best fit in here? But this is a pretty good adaptation for survival when we used to live out in nature in a village of our own making, and when everything was sort of, it's almost like when in nature you get God's repetition, you get God's code. You're downloading the code of the creator, which is repetitive in the environment. It's repetitive in all the animals and nature. It's all intertwined, right?
Yeah.
So self-sabotage occurs when people don't understand a couple key points, is that this protection mechanism, this loving adaptation, so that you sort of make it safely to your grave at 110, it's got some flaws, because if you live in a tribe that's unhealthy, unmotivated, addicted, and abusive, the subconscious only has one job, and it conducts that job without emotional commitment to the outcome. So if you're living in a tribe where everybody eats Doritos or drinks morning coffee without eating a good breakfast, or has wine at night, or even works a 9-to-5 job when they might have the capacity to own their own business, be a millionaire and retire by 30, basically the subconscious does what it always does.
You can see it actually at the moment, can't you, Jason, with everything in the last year that's happened, the repetition of,
yeah,
of
the repetition is, we're being
VIRUS, all that repetition is just so much download into people's consciousness that they can't see beyond that repetition, a lot of people. And it surprises the people that can see beyond it, that so many people have not been able to see beyond that.
Yeah, it's been proven in psychological studies that 35 to 40% of the population can be hypnotized by the repetitive content, even when there's no real life, there's no evidence in real time to fortify the belief. So we're always, although we might seem like we're in a major majority here, not the enlightened folks, but people smart enough to still ask questions and know that nothing makes logical or rational sense, although we think maybe it's more than 40%, it isn't. Only 40% are sort of lining up, demanding the new medicine, agreeing with the various policies that are hurting business and hurting health. But it's only 40%. And this is the power of the subconscious mind. It can be hackable. You can drive repetitive content on that subconscious highway, and it will land in this very fertile garden. And it will, the more repetitive it is, the more it represents the majority of the tribe. And majority simply means safety. And then oddly enough, the subconscious mind, when it determines a safe behavior, it also does a very sharp knife cut that anything that's not in line with that behavior is dangerous. So there's safe, and then there's dangerous. And that's the categorizations of anything that goes along with this idea is safe, anything that goes against it is dangerous. And then you see people who are under this hypnotic spell marking logical people as dangerous. I mean, they're like, oh, you want freedom, you're dangerous. And I'm like, oh man, you've been watching a lot of TV. You got the repetition going. Yeah, we all need freedom, and and we need to breathe. I mean, you don't have to be a medical doctor to understand that you have a mouth and a set of lungs for a reason. And then, of course, when you can think outside the repetition, you understand, like, if there is some sort of threat to our health, you know, you can walk in a restaurant and have a mask on, and then that's okay. You sit down, you take it off, and the threat doesn't attack, or the threat knows which way the arrows are going at the grocery store. You know, none of it makes any sense, but that's the power of the subconscious mind. So the self-sabotage is when we participate in self-abusive rituals or behaviors based on the function of the subconscious mind to manufacture a behavior, and then we can't stop it. Like, you'll see a lady or a man, because I used to own one of Canada's most successful weight loss clinics, so I would see people all the time. They might need to lose 50 pounds, and then they lose 20, and then they're terrified to lose the other 30. And you also see them like doing about face, they're going back, like, and then they'll gain back the 20 plus an extra 5, so now they got to lose 55. Like, what's going on there? Well, what's going on there is they've had so much repetitive content in contradiction to health, and that's purposely put in the media and in movies and TV shows and print media. And they're also telling you it's okay to be not healthy now, with various repetitive advertising campaigns that are riddled through all channels and social media at once. It's called the media cycle. So the person doesn't understand the power of the subconscious mind. If it has manufactured a script with the pen and the pad through the repetitive content, like if it's watched so many movies and so many shows, and even grew up in a tribe where people smoked or were slightly overweight or always going to the doctor to get medications that never make them healthy, if that was the repetitive content that got to the top of the script, and that script is pushed through for you to act out, the power of the subconscious mind it will come into effect in regards to, it won't let you lose weight. It won't let you stop drinking coffee. It won't let you stop drinking alcohol. It will not. You'll have 3, and this is very common too, because this is how powerful the subconscious mind is. It'll give you a little bit of leash. It'll give you a little bit of rope or slack on your leash. You'll have a great breakfast. You'll have a great lunch. And then you'll have a great dinner. And that's just like a day. And if you're going to be healthy, you got to do that every day. So the person might just have those 3 great meals. And then at night, they're gyrating in their seat. They don't know where it comes from. They have a craving for chips, or a craving for a whole tray, a whole line of cookies in the box, or they have a craving for ice cream, and they feel like it's an invisible arm pulling them out of the couch, driving them toward the fridge, and then they're just driving the cookies into their mouth, and they're like, and then when they're done, they're like, oh, this is so stupid, I shouldn't have done that, son of a bitch. You know, that's what they're like, right?
Yeah.
But this is the power of the subconscious mind. It reacted. There were no cravings. There was a fear of getting outside the majority, which is healthy.
Yeah.
There's a fear of being ostracized because you're not like the group, and the group's self-abusive as a pattern. Some guy in the group might self-abuse with cigarettes, another one self-abuses with coffee, another one self-abuses with alcohol. So basically the subconscious is really good at particulars, like the type of cigarette, but it's very good at patterns too. It's very eager to establish a pattern and just kind of say, oh, that's a self-abusive tribe. Be very careful of trying to be loving of yourself, because they'll attack you. And my job is to protect you. So let's avoid the attack. Get in the ice cream, get in the chips, get in the cookies, and then everything will be fine. Because basically, if the body is given 3 meals in a row of healthy eating, and then it's allowed to sleep and spread the healthy vitamins and minerals throughout the body to heal it, you'll actually wake up at least 1.5 pounds lighter. And that gets you that gets the subconscious's attention, that you're actually starting to go outside the safety protocol. So it wants to bring you back into the fold. So I hope that makes some sense.
It absolutely does. So how do we work with the subconscious so that we can overcome these ingrained patterns we're not necessarily even aware of? Do we speak to the subconscious like it's a person, or how do we work with the subconscious to be able to overcome that, the strength of its power in pushing us in our behavior?
Yeah, well, it has its own code. It has its own computer language. You can talk to it. It's not really keen on the language. It's keen on emotional communications. It's keen on symbols and patterns of emotional sort of repetition. So this part of the brain is very simple, and it only reacts to repetitive content. So its only job, you have to realize its only function. It's got the pen and it's got the paper, and whatever's most repetitive, you will act out beyond your conscious awareness. So what you need to do is, number one, you have to stop with the negative repetitive content. Given that it can't tell the difference between real time, screen time, and imagined thought, the first thing you have to eliminate is screen time to things that are purposely manufactured. So I do this as a living. I'm in the brainwashing, mind control, and behavior modification business. And other facets of the discussion can be that the movies and the TV shows that are made are purposely riddled with the negative behaviors so that the audience copies them without their conscious awareness. Because if the public are overweight and diseased and disempowered, dysfunctional and depressed, well, they're much easier to rule. I mean, you can't farm lions, you can only farm lambs. And your screen, a lot of people aren't aware of the historical aspect to their TV or movie screen. They were invented by the military industrial complex to really increase the distance and relieve the assailant of the liability for the destruction of the target. That's probably the best way to describe it. So they used to do this mind controlling behavior in town squares prior to the invention of the TV. So you can definitely do the Shakespearean plays. And this is why plays were so important for all of time. Even if you go back in ancient Egypt or ancient Babylon, there was the seasonal celebrations, there were government announcements, and it would always come in the town square. And they used the same repetitive content to influence the behavior of the people. And there were some governments that would do it purposely to make their people better and give them positive repetitive content, and more inventive, more innovative, more loving, more like harder working, hopeful, connected. And then there's a darker side. I'm pretty sure we don't have to tell anybody who's ruling us today. And they always came into conflict where one group in government would say, well, if they're going to really copy the repetitive content, why don't we have some plays about war, and then we'll do the positive reinforcement like the Nicolas Cage, and we'll make sure that the war hero, the man who goes to war, gets the most beautiful girl. And then the day after the play is done, we'll set up a subscription tent in the Agora, and we'll get everybody to volunteer for war. Why don't we just use it to our advantage like that? And those factions used to fight all the time. And then so the TV screen is literally the town square or town rectangle now hanging on your wall. They don't have to invite everybody, because not everybody could go to the town square meetings. Not everybody was interested in going to the plays. You could only hypno-program through repetition so much with a play. So they said, look, we need an invention. We need to militarize. We got to get something like a weapon inside the living room of every house. And then we're going to control the content. And then we can literally do whatever we want with these people by controlling the content. So every one of your shows, from Bad Moms, Dirty Grandpa, Shameless, Thor, Avengers Infinity War, where like Thanos kills his own daughter, Gamora throws her off all of those, if you were to investigate what kind of what kind of impact these repetitive images have, they're all negative. They're all negative, but they're not negative by chance. They're purposely weaponized against the public. And the public thinks the TV is in their living room because it's a great invention. They just happened to come across it. And I will let you know, if you go back, because you have to be able to explain these situations. They didn't fall over it by fluke. They literally said, how can we get the town square on the wall? What do we need here? And then they started developing the technology around the stated goal.
Yes.
This is what has happened. So the TV is a military weapon. Everything that's on it is purposely weaponized with negative repetitive content that is violent, that is push in. The most subtle repetition is in the realm of coffee symbology and alcohol symbology, because those have a very particular effect on brain function, lowers IQ, shuts off the frontal lobe, which we need for thinking. It puts the person in a childlike state for a very long time, puts the person in a fear state. And when we're in a fear state, we're very compliant to authoritative dictates. We're not very rebellious, because in a childlike state, we take the role as a child in the way that we're very receptive of being told what to do. So we're actually someone says, oh, we're getting attacked. And I'm like, well, there's a lot to get to this overt attack, which means out in the open. There was so many decades of covert attacking through the TV that disempowers the public and gets them self-sabotaging, which means they're hypnotized to self-abuse or destroy themselves or disempower themselves. Because that, if someone ever thinks that the nuclear bomb is the most effective military weapon ever derived, they don't know how the TV works. The TV works a lot more efficiently, because if I launched a bomb over at you, or even if I did an assassination shot from the grassy knoll at 200 yards, you still find the bullet in your corpse, and you still know that a missile came over. So you're like, well, where did it come from? Where did the shock come from? Where did the missile come from? So the thing about the evolution of warfare is trying to get away from the trail.
So
you don't want.
Can I say, so they're actually trying to make them do it to themselves rather than them having to do it to the people. So the people just.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's how advanced the weaponry is, because you could trace back the missile, and if I gave the command, you'd eventually find the general, then the office, then where the button was pressed, who pressed the button, who told you, or who told you to assassinate that person, and we get the bullet casing. Maybe we can trace the gun, find the gun owner, who told you to do that. And just like you guessed, you can put it together yourself. The whole idea is, I'm going to take the same mark, or what's called target. I'm going to put a TV in their living room. I'm going to use the repetitive content to make him or her get up, believing it's not their own free will, get in their car, drive down to the clinic for the new medicine, wait 6 feet apart, and do to themselves what no army in the world could ever do by force.
Yeah.
Because there's that many people, you could not do anything. And that's not just about the new medicine. This is about even alcohol on a Friday night. Like if I grabbed you, Medina, and I opened your door, and then I grabbed you by the hair and poured alcohol down your throat, because alcohol poisoning is a word. Cauliflower poisoning is not a word for a reason. And then the neighbors would be like, hold on a second. He's like an enemy to her. He has his hands on her. He's pouring this thing that could kill her into her mouth. Something's up. This doesn't seem right. But if I can use the movies and the TV shows, the repetition through the light sorcery to drive the subconscious so that you think poison yourself on a Friday night is all part of the good life. And then when you pass away or you have a really crappy life, I drive by in my Rolls Royce and say, oh, look what happened to you.
Yeah.
Look what you did to yourself.
It's very
And it
inspiring.
wasn't you, was it? It
No,
was not you
no,
at
not at
all.
all. Not at all.
So,
So the solution here is just being highly aware of everything that's going on around us in this way, and realizing that we have to make better choices consciously for, you know, not having the alcohol, not having the coffee, not tuning into the mainstream media and the movies. I can't find a single movie on Netflix that I can watch happily. You know, all those sort of choices that we need to make to really raise the bar on what energy that we're choosing to take in, because all that energy is impacting us consciously and unconsciously. So I guess that would be a solution. Are there any more ways that you
yeah.
override what's happening?
Yeah. So you take away the bad stuff. You
Yeah.
don't want to, live the bad mom's lifestyle or the wine mom, because that's all a big trick, right? Even in Canada, so many women are dying from alcohol overdoses. It's, I think it's double the male death rate now for alcohol.
Awful.
So you get rid of the repetition, the negative repetition that's purposely riddled to come through your military weapon inside your living room. But then you have to get to the top of the list with the positive content. So I have various wall art that I send my clients, which they riddle around their house, which
I like
has
that one behind you.
yeah,
Love.
that's a good one. And that's why it's up there, because it's a repetitive image that will change someone's behavior.
Yes.
And I know the power of it, so I leave it behind me all the time. My daughter painted it, so I thought I might as well
Oh,
use that.
beautiful.
It's great. Yeah,
Done
she's
a great
cute.
job.
Yeah, she's a really good painter.
Yeah.
And then of course there's hypnosis that I use as well, because the thing with hypnosis is you have direct access to the subconscious. And so any hypnosis starts with the person being in trance, or what's called alpha state. And a lot of people don't understand, but if they go watch the documentary, maybe I can send you these documentaries I'm going to mention, because they're free on the internet for now.
Yes.
One is called Pseudology, The Art of Lying, and one's called State of Mind by InfoWars. And they're probably the two best documentaries to get people started, so they understand when they do watch the movies and the TV, you'll go into alpha. It's the hypnosis trance while watching TV in 90 seconds or less. And the reason the human mind goes into alpha state is that anytime it focuses its awareness on a very small area.
Yeah.
So that's why an old hypnotist used to say, look at my watch, you're getting very sleepy. And then you just go, like you're still there, but you're in what's called alpha brainwave state. You're in a hypnotic trance. And the great thing about hypnotic trance is that the frontal lobe is the thinking part of the brain. And even when it's on, it's only can kind of interfere with our moronic behavior 7% of the time. But when you're in trance, it gets pushed to zero.
Right.
So now you have direct access to the subconscious, and it literally is a very well-oiled machine for taking orders and reacting to repetitive content. So in the hypnosis that I use, it's just, you're wealthy, you're healthy, you're wise, you deserve it. And someone's like, oh, this is like just pumping me up. I'm like, they won't even say it, because once you're in trance, you're very relaxed. There's no resistance.
Yes.
And we use the same, like I use the same brainwashing techniques that the TV uses and the movies use and the government uses. They're not complex, but instead of throwing you down the evolutionary ladder, which is Hollywood's job, my job is to use the same pathway, drive in positive reinforcement, add some wall art, add some other modalities that I use specific to my process, really I got to get you to the top of the list. And once you're to the top of the list, the subconscious mind is tricked that the majority is a tribe that's healthy, wealthy, and wise. and its job is to protect you, which means if there is a infringement on healthy, wealthy, and wise, it pushes it away automatically. So there's a hypnosis involved. And it's the same hypnotic power where the lady gets off her couch and heads toward the fridge to down a half liter of Ben and Jerry's. I'm getting them there. They get off their couch and they go get some glass bottled water. They always make their workout. They use the home equipment they buy. They go to bed on time. They, have a bowel movement when they're supposed to have it. They're starting to embrace it, being better, because I tricked the subconscious to make it believe that if you weren't better, you will be attacked. Where the TVs will program you and the movie screens will program that if you are better, you will be attacked.
Mm.
And the programming I do just makes it I make them like a automatically a program to seek success, where the other programming through government policy and TV and movie screens will make you pursue being a human mess. It's the same technology. It's just inverted.
Yes, yes. Well, I'm going to leave all your links and your contact information below. So if people want to contact you for a session, it's all going to be in the information below.
Yeah, it's
So,
very inexpensive because I have a recorded program I only sell for, it's like half price, it's only $99. And I review, the people love the presentations I do because I use real life TV shows. And then I point out the mind control, and they are baffled that they've
yeah.
never seen it before.
Yes. Well, I mean, even that example that you gave earlier of that Angelina Jolie movie, Nick, what was his name? Cage movie.
Nick Cage.
You think about the video game Grand Theft Auto. It's got exactly the same programming in that, but perhaps even more violent. And that's directed at young teenagers often.
Yep.
So you can see it happening over and over if you really want to look for it. And I think that as we are becoming more aware and we're awakening, more and more people are seeing this happening. Don't you think so, Jason?
I guarantee it. A lot of times when I go on talk shows or radio shows and explain this process, people are like, I totally knew that. I just never was able to describe it in a good story. The way the storytelling ability is what cements it. But people have seen this their whole life. They're like, everybody's acting in a negative way. Everything we're seeing is negative. The video games are negative. The glamour magazines are negative. And you can see the glamour magazines have a real big impact on females, because again, there's the security aspect, because they say if your breasts are like this, or your face is like this, or your legs are like this, you attract a mate.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that we see in our advertising world, and we're getting advertised to all the time to be very negative and self-abusive and self-loathing, and they're always going after that safety, security, protection, procreation part of the brain, and saying, oh, you'll be safe if you do that, you'll be protected if you do this, you'll procreate more efficiently if you look like this or have this product. And it's all psychological manipulation. We don't need any of it. And of course the government weaponizes this psychology against us the most.
Yes, absolutely. Well, what do you recommend for people at the moment? Because, there's so much fear-based information out there about what's going on in the world. And I think in some ways, obviously, that's all directed at us to create more fear and to keep us in a really low vibrational frequency. And it's at the same time good to be aware of what's happening in the world. So sort of have a sort of a balance between being aware of what's truly going on, but also keeping practices that you can keep your energy and frequency at a higher level is really important. So how do you recommend that people do that so that they maintain a level of awareness, but they're also able to keep a high frequency in the midst of the intensity of this darkness? And I think as more and more of the darkness is exposed, which is this period of time, it can encourage people to drop their frequency. So we need to have that exposure so that everything can be shown and not hidden anymore. But at the same time, we've got to, we've got to raise our frequency. So how do you suggest people do that at the moment? I mean, apart from everything you've already said.
Yeah, basically for me, I mean, I'll tell you what I do. I mean, I can't do the work I do unless I did the reprogramming, because I was addicted to drugs and addicted to alcohol, but it wasn't an addiction. It was literally a program that I did because, you know, the groups I ran with, my parents had some addictive tendencies. So I grew up in an addictive tribe. So hurting the body was definitely near the top of the list. And so what I do basically is I couldn't really quit any of the addictions until I started learning how to drive like hijack the process and get to the healthy things on the top of the list. So I could tell people to eat organic, get to bed on time, you know, and drink glass bottled water only or spring water only. But the people that are hurting themselves and keeping themselves in a low vibration with unhealthy habits, they already know that most of the modalities they're participating in aren't healthy. The reason they can't stop it for any great length of time, the subconscious will always let you stop it for a little bit to give you a little bit of an impression that you have control, but you can't do it for years and years at a time. It'll only let you do it for weeks and week, like a week here, a week there. So I could definitely list what people should do to keep their vibration high. But if they are self-abusing, number one, I don't hold it against you. I know why you're self-abusing, whether you're vaping or smoking or drinking or eating bad food, or you talk about takeout as a treat or a reward on a Friday night, when really it's just a trick so that you poison yourself going into your free time zone. You have like 48 hours or 72 hours to get your life together and maybe start a business plan. And that's why they're always telling you that the poisonous food is a treat or reward. So I understand the cycle. And to go to a higher vibration, you can't strong arm or bully or muscle this part of the brain that laughs at you. To control is 93 to 97% of your behavior. So even though I could make a list, I'm not going to make a list. Just email me. I don't like to peddle my wares, but I quit making people healthy through diet and exercise because they were so tired, terrified to be better because of their programming. Thousands of dollars would be spent and nothing would be happening. I'd feel depressed. They wouldn't get where they wanted to. So I gave it all up so I could do brainwashing on my clients. And I used to brainwash them without them knowing what I was doing. And then they wouldn't get into the ice cream, or they actually quit their coffee or quit their alcohol or stop smoking. And then they don't need me anymore. So if anybody's looking for a very inexpensive program or get exposed to this information, and trust me, when I present information like this on Zoom and I use PowerPoint, I will show you things that will make your head spin. You will be baffled by how powerful this part of the mind is. And the videos I show, I have a very slick collection of videos which will get you where you want to go by making you understand that this part of the mind is what inhibits you from your best life. And you can't just demand you have your best life. You have to reprogram for it, because that's how our behavior is manufactured. So I hope I'm not trying to sell my I don't need to sell my products. They sell themselves. But if anybody's interested, they can email me at jason@freedomfromselfsabotage.com. And if anything has clicked in this discussion, I think they should email me.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you, Jason. And I think that's a really important point, that if people are feeling like they're not able to overcome what's happening, which is what you say happens, people can't get past that programming, that subconscious programming, they need to contact you or look at ways to really reprogram that subconscious mind. So Fantastic. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful to chat with you today. I think we've covered a lot of amazing territory. You have a way of encompassing a lot of information very quickly, which is brilliant.
It's my mother has a saying: the shortest distance between two lies is the truth.
Exactly. And isn't it great to be able to share truth in a world that's trying to encourage the opposite at the moment? But I think it's changing and it's shifting, and I'm looking forward to seeing a new world happen, hopefully within my lifetime. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, me too. I hope we can reprogram together. And this kind of technology, I remember, I think her name's Carolyn Mace or Miss. She
Yeah.
would, yeah. What? How do you?
MYSS, I think.
Yeah, and she said any technology is it's like a mind control is like a knife. You can grab the handle end and you can cook a meal or defend yourself. It's a very valuable tool, but if you grab the blade end, you cut yourself to bits and, it can get infected. You might lose your whole hand or wrist or even your arm. So mind control can be used as like the blade end, or it can be used as the handle end. And I use it as the handle end. I use it as a tool, and people can use it as a tool to get out of these. And once you understand through, say, my video presentations, exactly what you're looking for in your movies and your TV shows, you're going to see it. And then when you see how the magician manipulates you, the magic show fails to impress.
You can't
And
watch
it won't.
it
Well, you'll watch it, but you'll be like, yeah, I don't really feel like watching it because I know they're trying to make me self-abuse, to disempower me, dull my shine and underachieve and lead a mediocre lifestyle, which transfers sort of that energy, the ether, the invisible ether. Our power comes out of us like a vapor when we're poison or toxic or disempowered, and it rises up the pyramid to the people that have organized it. So they maintain their power by destroying ours, and they use the town square hanging on the wall, that military weapon we call a TV. They use that so that we voluntarily go out and poison ourselves and disempower ourselves, think small, act small, talk small, and really get our life up into a jumble. Like Pigpen from Charlie Brown, he always had that cloud of dirt around him. That's what happens to us naturally if we don't understand that the TV is in our living room as a military weapon that has meant to soften us before this attack has occurred.
Great point. And the truth is, we are divine, infinite, unlimited beings that can create anything we want. So that's a good note to end on. Thank you so much, Jason. That was really wonderful. And I'm sure that people will get a lot of fantastic inspiration and guidance from today. So thank you.
Well, thanks for having me on, Medina. Call me anytime. We can always do another show. So thank you very much for the great work you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.